All right, so here we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin on the lower term time frame, still doing the same thing that we've been looking at for the past couple weeks now. And yesterday we did confirm yet again another lower high right here. Did confirm also hidden bearish divergence, I think all the way up to a 12-hour. Let's just double check on this. Yes, indeed we did. So short term, we did play a bit of a downside move, but still within the context of this greater consolidation right here, nothing's really changed at all. So at the end of the day, until Bitcoin actually does essentially trade back above your last lower high, which we could now even move down as a resolution point from 50,300 now down to about 49,500, only because, well, Bitcoin got, wrecked there, or I wouldn't say wrecked there, but did put in another lower high. So it's not necessarily like a good thing, although the resolution point does move downwards now. I would be looking at that point as a bit of a bias buster and an early indication, or perhaps, not an early indication, but a full-on verification of a bear trap going on. Until then, this, of course, is a bearish descending triangle, which has a higher probability to break out to the downside than the upside, especially within the context of an overall downtrend. And it would have a measured move all the way down to about 43,000 to 43,500-ish region, which would be directly in line, of course, with the weekly 55, which Bitcoin on CME is actually yet to test. So if you are looking for that, or if you are looking for the wick fill on December 4th, that's kind of the bearish view on this one right now. And of course, as long as Bitcoin is operating below that last lower high now, which is now moved down from, again, 50,300 to 49,500, that is, well, the more likely thing to be happening. But I do think that there's several things in the underlying market dynamics and across the board here that are of interest and do align with the potential for a major bear trap, actually. So I'm going to go through my notes right here. Let me just make sure that I got everything in there. And yes, we do. Okay, so yes, there is bearish divergence, or sorry, hidden bearish divergence all the way up to a 12-hour. We do see that volatility is on the floor right here as well. Whilst putting in a bit of a lower high right there. So that typically is a bearish setup. Again, it is not verified, at least in the way that I look at things, or validated, no matter, or depending upon which sort of terminology you want to be using, until Bitcoin essentially either closes a 4-hour dodo below the same area that we've been looking at for the past 2 weeks here, that being 46,500, or if you want to be super conservative, then I guess you'd be waiting for, if you want to be super aggressive, you'd probably just be waiting for a move just below 46,500 or so. However, personally speaking, I still would like to see an actual closure below there, because we are looking at, a decent sized move. Now, if Bitcoin does initiate the bear trap, which will be had first and foremost by trading back above that last lower high, again, 49,000, and it's not 500, it's actually 350 on a full hour closure, nothing less in this case, and preferably higher term timeframes, then we could apply that measure move to the other side, and that's going to be somewhere around about 53,500 to 54,000 bucks. Here's the thing though, and here's kind of what I'm looking at right now in the sense of the greater picture. So I want to go back on over to our chart over here with the daily stochastic momentum on CME and follow up on this signal, as we actually did cross the upside from yesterday's video, but now it must maintain above that same level. So I'll briefly go over why this is relevant, and then we'll go into what this means, coming into today's closure, actually the weekly for CME, obviously. Anyways, this same signal has happened about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, working on number 8 times in Bitcoin's history. And this signal is essentially related to the blue vertical bars right here, whilst the daily stochastic momentum comes all the way down to this green horizontal right here. Now, this, again, has happened several times in Bitcoin's history, and even within the context of very, very nasty and hefty downtrends, weekly downtrends, like macro downtrends, which Bitcoin's not in right now. It's in a daily downtrend, but not in a weekly downtrend. Again, as long as Bitcoin's above 40,000 bucks, essentially. Well, even then, there were some pretty impressive bounces. Now, they don't look like much on log scale, but certainly this was a nice bounce over here, almost 60%, again, within the confines of a very bearish market. Now, there's 2 iterations that stick out very, 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 very much above all the other ones that are a lot more similar to what we're looking at right on over here. That would be this one from March 2020 and this one from December 2018 lows. Why is that? Well, we do see, if you focus in on the red circled area right here, we do see the daily stochastic coming down to the green bar, bounce off, reject, come back down again, base once, base twice, and, well, assuming that we do continue with upside momentum coming into the end of the day today, then I would be looking at March 2020 and, again, December 2018 as very relevant for a fractal of that signal. March 2020 looked like this right here. Not actually as weak as what we see right now, to be fair, so there is a bit of a counterpoint right there, and I want to be as neutral as possible when presenting this information, because it's not for me to, trade for you or make the decision for you. Just give out the information, and then you make the best decision for yourself. yourself, obviously, as only you can. But we see the same. We see something very similar over here. Base once, reject, base twice, and big move to the upside. Obviously, that was your macro low at basically $5,000 before going unabated all the way up to, you know, essentially $60,000. So with that in mind, we did also put in, or Bitcoin more accurately said, put in a bit of a ascending triangle right here, which is very similar because that's exactly what's going on right now. Same thing over here actually in 2018 on the 3100 macro cycle low, where Bitcoin came all the way down to this area, and this one's very, very profoundly similar to the one that we're working on right now, where we come down first, base, reject, base twice, base thrice, and then boom, big move to the upside. Now, keep in mind, this did take another like 2 months from that basing signal in order for it to have that full-on move from about 4,000 to 14,000. But again, another ascending triangle right here, another bullish accumulation formation. Now, if we go to our current structure, well, we have one massive ascending triangle that Bitcoin's been baking in for almost a year now. I mean, technically not a year, but like 8 months, about like quite some time. So a bigger consolidation does imply a bigger resolution, and we do see a very similar signature specifically to 2018 actually, where again it bases once, reject, bases twice, bases thrice. And if Bitcoin does maintain closures today, specifically today above 46,800, then we will remain with upside momentum. And the next piece of the puzzle, now that we got yesterday's closure, which was obviously necessary, would be getting back above the critical zone, specifically above that last rejective high that we saw over here on 6th of December. Here's the problem though. Bitcoin's not trading over CME does not trade over the weekend. So we'll have to wait until Monday for that to really be validated for the next sort of piece of the puzzle. But as of tonight's closure, which CME will be closing in 15 hours, 49 minutes, and 39 seconds, if you do see it maintain above, again, 46,800, that'd be the next sort of, you know, short-term piece of the puzzle that you can be following up on to edge the favor in the boo laws here. Now, I want to take this a few more steps further, actually. That's going to be over here on the secondary chart. Someone called this out yesterday, and, you know, looking at it, it's not my favorite indicator, but it does work. We do see on the daily MACD, we have bullish divergence between the histogram right here, making lower lows in comparison to our December lows. So again, I'm comparing the November lows right here versus our December lows right here. Then also, we actually will see the daily MACD cross the upside today with any sort of a closure above 47,500, which Bitcoin is pretty much trading at exactly right now. So if that condition is met, that will look good, obviously. And then I want to take this another step further over here on our Dixie chart, actually. So Dixie is going to be closing the weekly today. Today, Friday, that is, if you're in the Western Hemisphere and watching this video at a little bit of a later time. I just want to be very clear about that. And Dixie is very interesting right here. So obviously we had the FOMC meeting not yesterday, but the day before that on Wednesday. And, you know, this is essentially where you can kind of map out those movements most directly with the dollar, obviously. And what do we have right here? We have a rejection clearly at the supply zone right around the $97 level. Now, with that in mind, this is not a confirmed reversal just yet. Does it look good? Not necessarily, no. But if we do see a closure below specifically the 29th of November low, that's going to be $95.50, then I would call this a not just a rejection, it's also going to be a lower high on the macro schedule, and very likely does trade down at minimum to 94.25, and at maximum, well, at maximum could be zero, obviously, but at, you know, at maximum we see a full-on shattering move to the downside over the next couple months, which is definitely possible. But first things first, need to actually confirm that, and that will be closing later today. And and again, even if it doesn't close below the $95.50 region, it offers up the potential for next week. So we have a consolidation going on right here. The question is, does it reverse or not? I am starting to look at this as a bit more of a reversal. Why is that? Because if we go over here to a bi-weekly, we do have, or do we have hidden bearish divergence? No, we actually don't yet. Maybe on a monthly. Yeah, we would have, no, we wouldn't have it on a monthly either. So yeah, it's probably not looking good then, but still a little bit of a pullback probably does help out Bitcoin. And again, understand that Dixie is the dollar's value relative to other, basically other fiat currencies, a basket of other fiat currencies like the major ones, specifically, or most importantly, the euro dollar actually. That one holds like, I think, more than 50% of the weight, something like that. It's absolutely massive. So if we actually go over the euro dollar chart over here, you can see that it's put in some nice lows. So I think that correlates rather well with what we're looking at right there for at least a bit of a short-term pullback, which should give Bitcoin a bit of a reprieve. Now, understand this really only matters on the macro scale. And to be fair, unless if we see something like this, it's not going to be like another macro move or anything like that. But ultimately, something to be keeping an eye on, as well as this, another tangential thing that I think is rather important. That's going to be Ethereum Bitcoin right here, taking off all of my drawing tools, all my indicators, everything. What do we have? We just have a clean and clear retest of the highs after the big bad breakout. Kind of, I wouldn't say exact, well, actually, yes, exactly as we did say, but I don't like using that terminology because it implies the wrong sort of mentality. It's not about I called it. It's not about I knew what was going to happen. No, it's all about statistics and probabilities. In this case, it was on that side, and I just want to be following up on that. The reason why this is relevant, the reason why I bring this one up is because anytime that we have seen Ethereum Bitcoin bullish in the past, we have seen essentially Bitcoin in a macro uptrend, which I'll show you by the orange chart, the orange line chart in the background. So you can see here, if we put both of them on, well, we can actually keep them like this. Basically, they both trade very, very well with each other on the macro scale, meaning that anytime that Ethereum Bitcoin has an uptrend on the weekly, so does Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's typically, breaking out to the moon and beyond, and vice versa for the downside. But it it's correlated best off of Ethereum Bitcoin's weekly trend, that is. So you can see over here, for example, in 2018, where Ethereum Bitcoin put in its first lower high, right here. That's actually about where Bitcoin really did start to top out, a little bit before that, yes, but ultimately that's kind of what I'm looking at right there. So I did want to call that out, as that's also another sort of tangential thing to kind of, I guess, be a little more excited about, as what's realistic about this is that, it didn't just retest the breakout, it's really a continuation move. So if we're seeing continuation on Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, meaning that it's literally continuing from here with its uptrend, then obviously by definition we cannot have a lower high just yet, and so that would also be on a little bit of the Bula side here, I suppose, as well. Let me just go down my list a little bit more. Yes, we definitely need to get to this one as well. This one actually rather important. So also, if Bitcoin were to take the upside route from this region, again, as first notified by the 49,300-ish region right here, which I am, hey, stop that. Yeah, there we go. The little red X right there, that high right there, 49,350 actually. On a 4-hour closure, that'd be the earliest sort of tangential, or sorry, documentable, verifiable thing on price action to be looking for a move to the upside. That would look good, obviously, as confirming this as a weekly low. And if this gets confirmed as a weekly low, it will also be a weekly higher low. And if it's a weekly higher low, then we would also have hidden bullish divergence present on weekly RSI between this point and this point, as we're already making lower lows on RSI, correlated with higher lows on price action. If we go over here to CME, same thing as well. And CME actually closes the week for today. So if CME does close the week as a reversal, which right now it is not, by the way, it is not anywhere near a reversal right now on weekly CME or anything indicating a local low, that would need to be had by popping back above basically like $50,000 or so by closing price today. Then we actually would have the same sort of thing on CME as well, with that hidden bullish divergence, which would be the next sort of obvious signal for Bitcoin putting in the next major low within this region alongside the green 55 exponential average on the weekly. So all of that stuff does matter, obviously. Now, as far as timing this is all coming into a very interesting precipice right here. As I do go back to this chart, where is it? My moon charts. The moons are about to show you the way, baby. Hearken to the witches right now, because the witches know everything. And I think that we have a Bula moon coming in, not tonight, but tomorrow night. The 18th, whatever the 18th is. Look, if you believe in the moons, which, to be fair, like the last year and a half, they have been very, very accurate, except for the second to last iteration right here. This was obviously not a great signal, to be fair, nor was this one over here. It still actually has a little bit over an 80% hit rate for the past year, a little bit over a year now. And we will be getting a Bula moon relatively soon right here. So that, I think, is of interest for the moon believers out there. Not saying that you should believe it or shouldn't believe in it, but something that has more than 80% hit rate, that is an 80% hit rate, or a little bit more than that, actually. So that's, well, you make your own decisions, obviously. And then if also I bring up this sort of mentality as well, we've been looking at the third Friday as a big basing point and correlated with major highs and major lows in Bitcoin for the past year as well, of which I have them all mapped out right here. They're typically around the 20th of the month. So around the 20th of the month, give or take like a day or two from that number, we do find many major highs and many major lows, some major, reversal points on Bitcoin essentially. And guess what? Right now we're on the 17th of December. So the 17th of December isn't just, around that 20th date, but it's actually kind of where Bitcoin's put in major lows and major highs over the history of it, now that I recognize it. But more importantly, the last one, this was obviously a high right here on the 20th of November. Not like the most obvious one, to be fair, but or maybe not the most important one to be fair, but yes, it did get that last high before the next major move to the downside. Obviously, the one before that was this major high right here, 20th of October. This one over here in 21st of September was a major low, obviously, and all of these are correlating with like almost $10,000 moves plus for basically all of them. The one before that was 19th to 20th of August on this major low before going about 10,000 to 53. This one over here was, of course, July 21st before basically your macro bear trap going all the way from 30 to 69. Of course, the one before that was this major low here, 22nd of December. This one over here was your 19th of May low. This one over here was your April lows. This one over here was around your March highs, actually. And this one over here was obviously your February 21st high. And this one over here was your January 21st low as well. So for the last year, it has been pretty damn consistent with that. Again, my sort of theory with that, not that it needs to be validated or not, is that it has to do with like rebalancing around major options expirations. But then again, that's a little bit too infused with traditional marks, because nowadays, I mean, there's options expirations every day, let alone every fucking week. So with that in mind, fair enough. It does seem to offer up a little bit of an insight, I do suppose. And if we do go over the history of Bitcoin, which I don't think, well, do I want to do that right now? Probably not, no. But we do see some major highs and major lows coming in around the 17th of December, actually. The last macro cycle low was actually 17th of December right here. And I believe the last macro high before that was on the 17th of December in 2017. So just as a quick little fun action right there. I think even in the 2014-2015 cycle was around the same date anyways. So I want to get on to, for the last portion of this, the underlying market dynamics, of which the fear and greed index right now is showing actually yesterday's read. If you're looking at today's read, it's a 23, which is rather interesting, because if we go into the market data tab over here, you will notice that there is a lot of confluence, or sorry, not a lot of confluence, but a lot of similarities between what we see right here on Bitcoin's potential major low versus what we saw on the 40th, at the $40,000 weekly low, the prior weekly low, that is, in September right here. Now, Bitcoin's obviously been spending some more time within this fearful zone, but typically speaking, that's a time to be looking for, major lows. Even if it is going to be an overall downtrend, typically speaking, you do see some nice rallies off that region, which are certainly tradable. Can it stay down there for longer? Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we saw over the summer, but I don't think that we're seeing the same severity of the move that we saw over the summer. The summer was a 50% move to the downside, absolutely shattering. And there was like a real threat over here that Bitcoin actually might have been done for a while. Now that Bitcoin actually has this price action over here, I still think that the most likely thing that we're kind of looking at is basically this, is basically one massive consolidation range, which, it's going to look super obvious in hindsight, in my opinion. But, as long as Bitcoin's above 40,000 bucks, that last weekly higher low, it's still that. It's still that, essentially. It's still an uptrend. That also means if Bitcoin breaks out to the downside below that 46,500-ish region and tests around, 43 to 44,000 bucks, anywhere between there is fine. It's still just another higher low, actually, until Bitcoin gets continuation below 40,000. That's where the macro picture really starts to fall apart and looks a lot more abysmal, and probably looking at moves at minimum to the mid 30s, maybe even lower than that. But for right now, if you are bullish, you're probably looking at something like this long term, which would have a measure move towards like 95 or 100,000 bucks upon validation above the top side resistance, which is like 60,000 bucks essentially. All right, cool. So I think we got through all of that. That was some fun action. Oh, Mr. Faraz, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. There's one last thing that I forgot to mention. Herp derp, hit the herp and derp button, or whatever that is. And then also actually have made a bit of a partnership with Bybit there. So if you do want to check them out, if you do want some reduced fees, if you do want the, I don't know, it's like $3,000 deposit bonus, whatever it is, you're free to use that link, of course. As always, whenever it comes to these sort of links, I can't do that in good faith without also telling you, hey, if you're not already a successful trader and you don't already have like good strategies that have been working, it's very unwise to start leverage trading. In fact, it would be very unprofitable, typically speaking. Most people lose most of their money. About 80% of people lose all of, or just are never net winners in this case, within like a few years of giving it a go. Anyways, I want to say that if you are obviously already successful, then sure, yeah, go ahead, take advantage of it. But if you're new, the best thing to be doing is to be paper trading and getting some experience that way. You don't want to be the worst thing you can do when you first begin is by essentially risking your finances while you're in the learning phase, because the biggest impediment to you potentially getting to where you want to go is just losing your trading equity, which there's no reason to be losing your trading equity when you are quite literally learning, because you're probably going to be in that phase for a decent amount of time. So hopefully that was helpful, and there you go, and nice.